So today we're going to be talking about basic calligraphy strokes, which is basically calligraphy 101. We're going to start with upstrokes, which are kind of the backbone to most of the letters that you're going to be writing with calligraphy. It's also known as an entry stroke, and the stroke is very important to master, and specifically because it leads into certain letters, like lowercase h or lowercase b, m, n. There's a lot of words that require you to have an upstroke or an entry stroke. It's also important because it's the way that you connect the letters to form words. So now we're going to talk about the structure of an upstroke. Now, an entry stroke is very thin, and as you might guess, it goes up. But mastering it can be quite difficult because your upstrokes, ideally, you want them to be as thin as possible while being visible, as well as being as steady as possible with as little shaking as possible. And the key to this is practicing so that you get your consistency down. Because if you don't have that consistency, then your words, they look misaligned, and that can be problematic when you're trying to create letter forms that look similar or clean is a good word. Now here we're going to be talking about some different types of downstrokes. These are downstrokes that I typically use in lowercase t's, also make them a bit taller, and they can become a lowercase l. This particular type of stroke is really good to use for drills. The next one is an overhand. The overhand one is used in lowercase n's, lowercase m's, various different things. Also, you see that the full pressure, you use full pressure coming down, and then as you come up, if you were to complete that and then go down again using a full pressure, you'd get a U. On these, you go in with that upstroke with a very thin stroke and then come down full pressure, and that's the beginning of an M or an N. Now, it's very important to practice these, as again, you're going to need to build up your consistency. Now here I'm using a compound of those strokes that I showed before to make an O. Now, an O isn't always an O. You can use this as the bottom part of a lowercase d or a Q, and it's very important to practice your O's and keep them as consistent as possible. So if they list further right, or they list further left, or they're straight up and down, it can really throw off how neat your calligraphy looks. So as you can see, I'm pointing out how you come down full pressure and then come up into a thin upstroke, and that's very important. The next thing I'm going to show you is using the word minimum as a drill, because minimum has many of the important building blocks of calligraphy within just that word itself. As you can see, you have the very thin upstroke, and the full pressure downstroke. You also have your eyes, and then you have a U, which is, again, full pressure down and then come back up. Minimum was one of the first words that I used as a drill word, and now it helps you so much with your consistency, because that's the main thing that we look for, is consistency in your letters. I've been doing this for 4 years, and I'm still not perfect at it. You just have to keep at it and keep learning. So here I'm going to be showing you the kind of directions, showing you where the upstrokes are and where the downstrokes are, and how consistent they are. So they need to meet the top line and the bottom line, because if you're not hitting the top line, you're not hitting the bottom line the way your letter forms are made, then it's going to look sloppy, and it's not going to have the same consistency throughout your letter. It's just a really good habit to get into, to visual line the top line and the bottom line. So that's the end of the video. I'm sorry if this is awkward or, doesn't make much sense. But hopefully this will be the first in a series, and next time I'll be less brain foggy when I do this. So just to talk about real quick the materials that make calligraphy a lot easier. Cheap graph paper is one. You don't have to go out and buy a Rhodia pad, because those are really expensive at like $9 a pop. You can get basic graph paper at Walmart and use that. The first markers I ever used were Crayola Super Tip markers and Crayola Original markers, as well as I learned calligraphy too with pencils, mechanical pencils, normal pencils, drafting pencils. You don't have to go out and buy a bunch of really expensive pens at first. Not everybody has, expensive calligraphy money, so yeah. Just go out and buy some cheap art supplies and make it work. Find your way. I mean, just don't give up too easily. If something works for you that doesn't work for somebody else, that doesn't mean that it's wrong, even though it's different. Different doesn't mean wrong. So just keep at it and keep learning and practicing your letter forms and your drills as much as possible. And thanks for watching. I am a mess, but if you have any questions, go ahead and send me an ask, or leave a comment, or find me on Reddit at DAIMONOPHILIA. And yeah, just ask me questions and I'll do my best to answer them. Thanks for watching.